This is Trend Following Radio, where great thinking comes alive. Nobel Prize winners, legendary traders, best-selling authors, and the pros that know what drive us irrational human beings. I am your host, Michael Covel. Not filtered, raw, honest. That's my passion. I've had the good fortune this year to be given the opportunity to write a column for The Observer, New York paper. Now, due to an assortment of factors, I have been tardy on getting 3 columns done a month, or even 2 done a month. I got a handful done earlier in the year, February, March, and then one of those things happens to you that you can't really plan for, a book launch. My newest edition of Trend Following, basically a brand new book, came out in late April 2017, and I'm not sure what happened to my time. It just disappeared, went straight out the window. So gearing back up and getting a consistent Observer column done is one of my main goals for the rest of the year. What I'm going to read today is my newest column for The Observer, titled Parliament of Whores. And yes, I am stealing that from a long ago title from P.J. O'Rourke, who deserves the credit for using it, at least the first place that I know. I seriously doubt it has not been used at other times in history because it is a damn great phrase, Parliament of Whores. Jumping right in. Think back, not too long ago, all the way back to ancient March 2016. And I had to go find this. Time magazine offered prescient investing wisdom. Quote, investors are better off if they don't let their politics interfere with their investing behavior. The same is true for conservatives who fear a Clinton or Sanders presidency. When it comes to the short-term performance of equities, no one knows what's going to happen. Don't sell your investments and pile cash underneath your pillow if Trump wins the next few primaries, the nomination, or even the election. This too shall pass. End quote. What a great line. I did not know that Time magazine knew a damn thing about investing. But they got that one spot on. Now, that was not exactly headline material in early 2016. I did not recall that piece. As I just mentioned, I found it just right now, frankly, in the last few days. However, put that logic aside for a moment, the logic of not paying attention to politics, and consider a touch of fear from a few months later. May 2016, Mark Cuban, owner of the Dallas Mavericks, he was singing a different and far more ominous tune than Time. Quote, I can say with 100% certainty that there is a really good chance that if Trump wins, we could see a huge, huge correction, end quote. So he's 100% certain that there's a really good chance. Well, that's a hedge. You know, people hear the 100% certain, they attach that to a crash. Obviously, Cuban was really not saying anything in that particular comment, but he was implying that Trump equals correction. A smart and successful billionaire, it's not surprising that Cuban grabbed the news cycle with that Trump kills the stock market prediction. Look, I'm sure he caused some investors to pause or to plan for a pullout if Trump crossed the finish line first. No doubt about it. Building on Cuban, economist Justin Wolfers added more grist to the Trump fear narrative in September 2016, not but a few months before the election. Quote, Wall Street fears a Trump presidency. They fear it. Who the fuck is Wall Street in this context? Stocks may lose 10 to 12% of their value if he wins the November election. The market prefers the Democrat, this would be Hillary Clinton, and believes that Mr. Trump is a unique threat to prosperity, end quote. Well, that did not happen, at least not yet. USA stocks have rocked and rolled nearly straight up since Trump's surprise victory. I mean, seriously, massively straight up. His Commerce Secretary, Wilbur Ross, who happens to be worth $2.5 billion, sees the administration actions directly pushing those gains. Quote, We're lowering taxes, we're cutting regulations, we're stimulating the workforce, helping to develop the workforce of the future, unleashing our energy resources, and redoing our trade agreements. That's the whole package that President Trump was elected on. And it's the whole package that's driven the stock market to $4 trillion of gains since the election, end quote. If that's accurate, that's impressive. But Ken Fisher, worth $4 billion, has another perspective. Quote, yes, it's called a Trump rally, but that doesn't make it so. I posted a chart of the prior 18 months market on my Twitter feed on June 8th. From February 2016's low, it's been a slightly wiggled, mostly straight upward line. Was it a Trump rally 15 months ago when a few thought he could be nominated? What about in August when he was envisioned losing? When he won the presidency, most expected plummeting prices. Then stocks wiggled upward as they did in most prior months, end quote. Well, there you got two guys that are loaded and they're not seeing eye to eye. So how can there be so much variability among the ruling billionaire class? Let me tell you, it's quite easy. They need to tell, read, sell a certain story to ensure power for their party affiliation. Read club. Bingo. That means for you following the lead of random billionaires or waiting or hoping for your politician on the right or left or anywhere in between to win an election as a solid investing strategy for you is pure, unadulterated folly. Worse than that, and let me be blunt, it's a disastrous plan for your long-term wealth. If that's not sinking in yet, give me a few more minutes to make my case. But if you really don't get it at this point in time, this system of baloney that's being thrown at you, you might not be able to recover. You might be permanently brain damaged. I'm just putting that out there right now. You might be so fucked up in the head, you can't recover. Now, I hope that's not the case, but there's a very good chance. And why is that? Why are the billionaires, the politicians, they're not important? Because the market is the market. It goes where it will go. And it's always been that way. No one can predict or push the direction of stocks, and certainly no politician. Again, if you're starting to question me and you really think there's a politician out there that controls the stock market, I hate to tell you, you might just be stupid. You really might not get this at all. You've drank so much Kool-Aid, the firing of those synapses inside your cranium, it's all just gone haywire and you're done. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but look, it's how it goes sometimes. You can just go off to a farmland and graze with the sheep for the rest of your life. So why no politician? Why do they not have this effect on the market that many of us think they should have? The reason for this is quite simple. Behind the scenes and in the halls of Congress, including inside the billionaire class, their real driver is an addiction to fame and power. That means both sides of the aisle are motivated solely by adulation. Getting adulation is their primary skill. If you've never given an interview to the press, if you've never stood on a stage and spoke to people, you don't really get what I'm talking about. I'm not saying I'm all that, but I know what this feeling is. This feeling where people treat you a certain way and you feel special. You feel like a king. You're God for the moment. Well, normal, well-adjusted people will take the stage, they'll take the interview, and they go back to a normal life. But imagine if you couldn't get off that high. Imagine if you had to have it every day to make yourself feel good. If you had to have an audience, if you needed that audience to worship you and praise you, that's the problem. Because that type of naked lust for power over others doesn't control or move the stock market. And you know that deep in your gut. I'm nothing more than the common sense reminder you want to forget. You know all this. You know it. This stuff on TV is scripted nonsense. We need to create jobs. What the hell does that mean? Politicians don't create jobs. These are people sitting in dusty offices in Washington, D.C. that simply want power over you, to lord over you, and you will give them reverence. You will pay alms to them. That's what drives them. That's their motivation. But let me move this conversation away from the billionaires fighting to be politically right and directly, even more directly than what I've gone so far, which has been pretty direct, more directly into the halls of Congress. And let's ponder what D.C. is, Washington, D.C., and what it's even capable of executing. Have you ever been behind the scenes with congressmen and their staff? I have. These people party nightly like teenagers at the Beach Week bars across D.C. It's not pretty. They're not impressive people. It's one big joyride of older drunken men chasing interns at our expense. Now, you might be saying to yourself, Covel, it sounds like you're taking a shot at former President Clinton. Not exactly. Because Bill Clinton would not be the first person to play grab ass in Washington, D.C. with interns. Not the first, not the last. It never stopped. Both sides of the aisle. Doubt me? Go take a week-long vacation, which I would not wish on my mortal enemy, but go take a week-long vacation while Congress is in session and go hang out around some of the bars on Capitol Hill. You will see exactly what I'm talking about. Congressmen, some of the biggest pant loads you've ever seen, out getting absolutely messed up on who knows how many shots of what every night to chase young interns that are shipped in every season from around the country because they want to come work at the seat of power. Kids, this is how it works. I've been there. I've seen it. I grew up in the area. It's really gross. It's not a pretty picture. These people are not interesting people. They're not accomplished. They're just power-hungry folks that have no bearing on your stock market gains at all. And look, this is the major disconnect in modern American life. Voters don't have a feel for what dysfunctional DC actually is, and they don't have enough experience to say, you're full of it, after a politician takes credit for stock market gains. It's a dog and pony show to confuse the uninitiated. People pretending they are critical to the rise of the stock market because of an election, but really they have zero clue, zero influence on those market gains. Let me give a real behind the scenes take on power in Washington, D.C. True story. Something I witnessed many years ago. I had a friend who worked on the Hill, Capitol Hill. It was, I think, a Friday afternoon. He worked for a congressman, a very senior congressman. And he said, hey, come on down to the office. We're just hanging out. It's Friday afternoon. Congressman is out of town. He's back to his home state. So we went and we hung out in the congressman's main office. Now, these main offices, huge vaulted ceilings. These things are like big playrooms, frankly, right? And we sat there, and again, I'm not a drinker or anything like that, but I think we had some beers in the office, just kind of kicked back, kicked our feet up, all that kind of stuff. And it was just a comedy of everything you might expect, but not expect. Loaded guns in the office. Oh yeah, those were there. Now look, I'm a Second Amendment guy, so no problem with it, but it's kind of funny that there's 357 loaded magnums in the congressman's office, right? And then there was also all kinds of, just male magazines. Old school kind of like naked girl magazines in his office. This is normal. This is par for the course. These are the kinds of people that are down there. That's the tip of the iceberg. That's just one little tiny story to give you some perspective. It's like sending kids away to college. And Capitol Hill, the congressional offices, are like dorm rooms. I'm sorry to break the egg on any fantasy that any of you might have had about what it is, what Washington, D.C. is. But look, let me get a little more detailed here. I want you to consider my mini history class if you're prone to reward and or blame politicians for stock gains. Imagine with me, go back to the first war in Iraq. President Bush the Sr. had an 89% approval rating on February 28, 1991. Then the economy tanked. His fault? No, real estate crashed in the early 90s, not long after the savings and loan debacle of the late 80s. What happened next? President William J. Clinton won the fall 1992 election. However, Clinton's election did not signal roaring economic times, and the Democrats lost the House and Senate to Republicans for the first time in 40 years in 1994. That's what made Newt Gingrich famous. Did Clinton sink the economy in that short 2-year time frame? No. But then magic happened. During late 1994, the internet started to roll, and in August 1995, Netscape went public. Netscape, the browser that we all had to use at first, it went public, a trigger still felt today. Stock markets boomed from 1995 to 1999. The dot-com bubble was on. However, this bubble was an enigma. Many knew it. Federal Reserve Chairman Alan Greenspan uttered the phrase irrational exuberance in a December 1996 speech. But pointing out a bubble to those getting rich off said bubble was wasted breath. He was resoundingly ignored and even jeered by financial media. And let's face it, he got that one right, but everything else that came after that, he deserves the reputation he got. But look, the good times kept rolling. President Clinton had an approval rating of 73% on December 19th, 1998. 6 years into his presidency. Did he or a Republican Congress have anything to do with record tax receipts coming into government coffers? No. The dot-com bubble was spinning off cash like no tomorrow. Governments were flush and America was rich, or at least on paper. Then suddenly, boom, party freaking over. The NASDAQ in March 2000 crashes. The Fed, deathly afraid that the Dow would deflate, started cutting the Fed funds rate of over 6% on May 16, 2000 to a low of 1% in June 2003. If the dot-com bubble had not popped in the spring of 2000, would Al Gore have been president? Perhaps, but the fall of 2000 instead brought another President Bush, George W. President George W. Bush inherited the dot-com bubble implosion, and less than a year into office, 9/11 hit. 2 wars of choice followed, and that's a whole other debate. However, Fed rate cutting had already started a new bubble blowing. This time, real estate and the Dow were zooming up. Voters rewarded Bush for the economy, even though it was the middle of another bubble. His second term started in January 2005. He was not going to be beat when the economy looked that good. And it all runs smoothly until summer 2007 when the new bubble starts to deflate. It finally crashes in October 2008, and President Barack Obama wins the presidency standing at the right place at the right political time. And now, if the economy had not sunk over the course of 2007-2008, would Republican candidate John McCain have been elected president? Probably. A very good probably. If the economy had cratered again, would it have been Obama's fault? No. In fact, the stock market from March 2009 all the way to President Trump's victory went where? That's right, straight up. So do you still think the president, Democrat or Republican, controls whether the stock market is bullish or bearish along with controlling your portfolio's success? Many will always think that. The Matrix scriptwriters knew the unbending helter-skelter motivation of so many Americans. Quote, "You have to understand, most of these people are not ready to be unplugged, and many of them are so inured, so hopelessly dependent on the system, that they will fight to protect it," end quote. Does that mean a majority of investors will stay glued to media histrionics, believe political insanity, and consciously or subconsciously strive daily to prop up this inane system that we all know deep down makes zero sense? You bet people will. Guaranteed. However, successful investors, successful traders, ones just like trend followers, those who see this intentional scripting, will smile at the daily show, the always daily show, and say to themselves, quote, "Chop wood, carry water. Chop wood, carry water. End quote. That was the end of my written article. But I want to add a little bit more flavor to it, because what you're really getting at with that perspective is the Stoic perspective, the Nassim Taleb's perspective about news and how detrimental news and all that information flow is to our good thinking. You've got to have your eyes wide open. You've got to think about what a politician is and what a politician's motivations are. It's not you. You're nothing more than a useful idiot to every American politician. All you are is a useful idiot, or, said more nicely, a useful vote, a way to stay in power. And they will tell you anything that you want to hear to stay in power. What's so sad about that anything that they will tell you to stay in power? Most people believe it. They just believe. The person comes on TV, they've got a suit on, they're on CNN, they're on Fox News. They're important. They're not important. They're absolutely not important. Let me offer some homework assignments. If you really want to drill in deep to my world, four things you can do that are frankly, basically for free, and will give you an even deeper perspective on where I go with my topic area, trend following. Number one, this podcast. It's over 550 episodes. Go listen to them. They're for free. It's a no-brainer. Number two, read my newest edition of Trend Following, out April 2017. It just came out in the last few months. The audiobook is out now too. The audiobook, 34 hours, which means, and I've said this before, you can drive clear across America and listen to just my book. Enough to make you go crazy. Number three, read The Complete Turtle Trader, which was my second book, a fantastic story, a trend following story. The most important aspect to The Complete Turtle Trader, the most famous nurture versus nature story on Wall Street. Can you take complete beginners off the street and make them millionaires? The short answer to that question, yes, you can. The long answer, the long story of how it all came together, read The Complete Turtle Trader. And fourth, check out my film, Broke the New American Dream. I've never been a big fan of the title, and since today, I went into describing some of the issues that took place during the dot-com bubble, during the financial crisis 07, 08, 09. That film will give you the trend following perspective. Easily found. Go to my website. It's on Vimeo. You can watch it within 10 seconds. Streamed directly to your phone, whatever you're streaming to. Perhaps in the not too distant future, we will stream the damn stuff directly to our brain. I expect they will figure that out soon enough. That's your homework. Dig in deep. And if you have any questions, after you go through 1 through 4, if you have any questions about anything, I want to hear from you. Seriously, don't be shy. Drop me an email. I'm really easy to reach. Michael@covel.com. That is spelled just like the name on my books, Covel.com. Michael@covel.com. Send me an email and ask any damn question you'd like. I see a time when those awake will understand how to make money in up, down, and surprise markets. Whether new trader or experienced, college student or financial advisor, protecting against a crash or just trying to make a lot of money, trend following offers everyone an answer in uncertain times. To get started immediately, send me an email, Michael@covel.com. I will send you the right trend following steps to take along with my free video. But if you want to buy and hold, trust the government and trust Wall Street, this is absolutely not for you.